People with ADHD and all mental health are looked down on by the world around them, but we will protect you here. We exist to motivate you, to inspire you, to listen and love the story you want to tell. We are here to understand you and to help you gain the confidence to truly be yourself. And you just might be more powerful than you think you are. Make no mistake, we've got your back. Welcome to Lobow Spark. Something for someone.
Spartans! What is your profession?
Hello there again. I'm, of course, your host, Lobow, and I want to remind everyone listening that Lobow Spark has started a fundraising effort for Crisis Text Line. We have a goal of $19 per episode, as $19 supports one person in their time of absolute crisis. And I think all of you listening know what is meant by that. If you would like to donate through our fundraiser called Lauren's Infinity, the link to do so is in the episode's description. Lobow Spark is proudly sponsored by Feather, Twitter with a purpose. If you need help managing your online relationships, go to www.feathercrm.io. Lobow Spark is also supported with the help of Leo, Guinan, and Kirk Hofstrom. Today's group discussion centers around the extremely important topic of ADHD self-diagnosis. Mental health warriors featured in this episode are Sasha Young, MindsetbyDave, Blushing Crafter, Shannon Craver, Leo Guinan, Kirk Hofstrom, and a special shout-out goes to mental health advocate Geraint Evans for bringing this topic to the table for us to discuss. We hope you feel empowered by listening to all of us discuss ADHD and self-diagnosis.
This topic was brought up by Geraint, and it is on the topic of self-diagnosis of ADHD, and really, there could be some strong opinions on this. I feel like we all kind of lean towards, one direction, but I definitely think this is a massively important topic, regardless of where you lie in terms of your opinions. So, Geraint, I'll turn it over to you if you want to explain why you chose it and all that good stuff.
Sure. Yeah, so, basically, I think, self-diagnosis is the thing that is the most controversial about, advocacy online and stuff, and I think a lot of that is about the people who don't really understand what we're talking about when we say self-diagnosis. And I think all of us have a lot of people in our communities who are you notice them, they're there, but they're not really engaging, and that's I think how a lot of us were at the start. We're we don't know if we belong. So I guess I just wanted to sort of get a bunch of people who know things to talk about what we mean, and I guess if there's anyone here who disagrees, to say why. I'm probably not, I don't think, but maybe.
Awesome. Thanks for actually, you said something really important there. Is what does that look like? What is self-diagnosis? Because for me, I wasn't really sure of that term. I didn't know what it actually meant because I was diagnosed at a young age. So for me, it's hard to understand what the definition of self-diagnosis is, if that makes any sense, and what goes into it. So I know that Dave might have to scoot out at some point. So I want to start with you on this topic, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, my diagnosis is now confirmed because the t-shirt I ran away for is in fact in the laundry, which is in fact not done. So there you go. ADHD diagnosis sorted. The end. So yeah, well, basically this community diagnosed me. So I am still an unconfirmed ADHD. I was diagnosed with bipolar at a very young age, and practically everything that I now see as a trait of neurodiversity and a trait of ADHD is stuff that sort of the bipolar kind of brushed under the carpet. So basically the H, the hyperfixation, was me being manic. the AD, the attention deficit, was me being depressed. So it was always kind of like lumped in, and it was always kind of, it was very hard. And I used to always think that the inability to work was a product of the depression, and I used to always think that the inability to stop work was always a product of the mania. In reality, actually, over the last couple of years, I've started noticing that the inability to work can actually come first, and the executive dysfunction can come first. And in fact, it was actually Geraint that taught me the difference between executive dysfunction and procrastination. Because let's face it, I thought I was just a serial procrastinator. We have what I'm called selectively lazy. I came up with the term, but my wife really likes to go in hard on it, which is basically if I want like an apple pie and there's a box of cherry bakewells on top of the apple pies, I will like eat the cherry bakewells first to get to the apple pies, because moving them to one side is just too much effort. There's little things that I will do like that. I will accomplish the biggest things in the world, but then I will let something absolutely tiny and minuscule completely and utterly just derail me. And the other thing that it wasn't until I got into this environment that a lot of my stimming and a lot of certain things started coming out. So, for example, I mean, it's a Rubik's Cube and a fidget spinner. It's my latest little friend. But I never really stimmed before, and until the pandemic hit, and I was suddenly behind a camera all day. And but my wife was the one who pointed out, she's like, yeah, but think about whenever you used to give a talk. Like, she was having to film me once, and it was like, like I was always moving around. I'm basically Italian, with all the gesticulation and all the rest of it. So all of that came out, and it was only in talking to another neurodivergent who I'm not sure if I've ever introduced you to him, but I think you probably know about him, Beat Cleaver. I was only talking to him around about a couple of months after this time last year, and everything that he explained about his brain. You know how like an adult gets diagnosed because their child gets diagnosed, and then they go, the specialist like, well, this is everything that your child's doing, and they're like, and the adult's like, yeah, but that's just normal. That's all the stuff that I do, right? And then the specialist is like, yeah, because you probably also have this, right? It's quite common now for adults to be diagnosed or at least suspected when they take their kids in. Not that Beat Cleaver is my child. He's only about 10 years younger than me. But it was like, honestly, I was like talking to a mirror image of my own brain. And everything he explained as what it was like to live with ADHD, I'm just like, that's just how my brain works. That's just how my brain works. That's just normal. So that was the actual stage in my self-diagnosis. And it was also the first time, and this might be a little bit of internal gatekeeping, but it was also the reason that I really wanted to come back for this particular one, because I feel like a bit of a fraud in this community without only being self-diagnosed and without having the formal diagnosis. So every time that Lobow invites me to it, I'm like, yeah, but we don't really know if I've got ADHD.
So part of that ADHD is that you feel like a fraud for being part of the ADHD community. So no,
I'm sorry for laughing.
You gotta get rid of that.
I'm sorry for laughing,
that's my
but
experience.
Dave and I have talked quite a bit, and I've been around him quite a bit, and I couldn't not laugh because we don't know. It's like yeah, we do.
Right, exactly. That's, has that been hard for you Dave, in terms of like wanting to come into these group things or whatnot? I mean, if you honestly feel like, since you're not officially diagnosed, I mean, that is fucking bullshit. Okay. Like, you are always welcome here. Always.
Well,
you have ADHD.
I don't want to take someone else's spot. And let's face it, I don't give short answers. It's not like I'm the quiet one who sits in the corner and is just like,
right.
Yeah,
right.
nod, yes. So yeah, but no, it's a weird thing because, I think obviously working in the mental health community, it's like our experiences matter. And I wouldn't gatekeep somebody else. If someone else has a suspicion of it, the only thing I'd ever say to anyone is like, don't go on the internet and just randomly buy yourself some medication for this, It's like, and that's my experience with it has been one of the most liberating things has been allowing myself to do things like fidget, allowing myself to stim, allowing my train of thought to go off. And actually, when my train of thought does go off in a different direction, not beating myself up for it. When the brain fog kicks in, which I used to just plow through and push past the brain fog. When it kicks in now, and Blush can vouch for this, is I will be like, right, my brain's just not working anymore. I'm ending the stream. So I'll end the stream like 40 minutes early now and stuff. And I'll give myself permission to do all of that. So I'm caring for, with the exception of medication, which is something that I would never do just independently. I would always do with a doctor. I am caring for myself as if I have it. And the same when I have those days when it's not, I know it's not procrastination. I know it's executive dysfunction because even the things I want to do, I just can't get them done. I just go, okay. And then I'll go off and do something else. And usually that just chills me out. The same as if instead of trying to grasp after the train of thought that's just frigging gone off in the opposite direction, if I just carry on with the conversation and just like move forward with whatever comes to mind at that point, because sooner or later that train finds its way back around and I'm like, oh shit, that's what I was talking about. And I'll come back to it, which is a little bit disorienting for people in my chat, but it's that's the main thing is I am treating myself as if I do have it. I'm looking after myself as if I do have it. And the final piece of the puzzle for me with getting a formal diagnosis will be the fact that I am actually keen to try out medication. But it's getting to that point. Because I did actually, since the last time I spoke on here, I did actually speak to a doctor about like trying to move forward with all of this. But it was a whole big health check. And like they checked on so many things. And basically, that really, really annoyed me that all they basically wanted me to do was lose weight because my blood pressure was high, my weight, I am absolutely huge, by the way. And I'm obese as far as a BMI is concerned, but we all know that thing's bullshit. I'm quite muscular. But basically over the course of the pandemic, I had, the gym was taken away from me, which used to be my attitude, it was my version of wood chopping for you. That got taken away and I replaced like the coping that gave me with more food and more alcohol, which is slipping into old habits. So I even explained to the guy, I'm like, look, this isn't what's bothering me. I know how to handle this part. I'm a personal trainer, right? And he's like, do you want me to refer you to a health coach? I'm like, look at my occupation on that sheet in front of you. It's like, I don't need you to do that. What I need you to do is listen to this. And they were like, well, what I'll do is I'll recommend you off to this and nothing ever happened. So it's that big thing, that one huge thing that I've seen within my community, and especially for someone with ADHD, right, is that you have to like really be on point to actually go and speak to somebody. So like it's that weird sweet spot between this thing's hurting enough, but it's not hurt, but I've got the mental clarity to be able to actually speak about it. It's a very rare sweet spot,
which is hard.
When you actually build it up, and I built myself up for weeks. In fact, it was possibly even 2 months or so when I knew this check was coming. And I built myself up for that. And I was telling the community and all the rest of it. And I'm like, I'm going to go and do it. I'm going to go and speak to them. And I did. I said exactly what I wanted to say to them. And it was like nothing. So then I was just like, what the fuck is the point of doing that for a little bit? Which is, again, so everybody else, I'd say, look, speak to a different doctor, do this, do that. And this is why, and I'll obviously let Blush tell all of her story when I finally shut up. But that's why Blush is actually currently my utter hero, because she has pushed through so much in the last 6 months, and she is just a constant inspiration to me. And I need to take a couple of pages out of her book, really. Anyway, I'll breathe and shut up now.
That's awesome. Thanks, Dave. So, Sasha, I want to go to you next, since this is your first group.
Okay.
What is your, opinion on self-diagnosis and just your overall thoughts on it?
Oh, well, totally go for it, because that's how I did it, is I self-diagnosed and then I'm like, dude, this is what I got. And if I wouldn't have gotten diagnosed officially, I would have still, I have it, The only difference is getting it on that piece of paper and being able to get the medications. To me, that's the only difference that has to do with self-diagnosis versus professional. Because I feel like I'm on Twitter all the time, and I see all these people that have it, and a lot of them haven't been able to get there in other countries. I'm in Kentucky, by the way, if you can't tell by my accent. That's me. But there are in other countries where it is harder to get that medical, and I just got super lucky. It's been a year since I actually got officially diagnosed. So go for it. And I diagnose people on Facebook all the time. So maybe there's something. They're probably self-diagnosed too now. I'm like,
That's
'cause
fantastic.
I'll put something and they're like, oh, I do that too. And I'm like, well, honey, you got ADHD. I hate to tell you.
I think it's like, for example, what Dave just said about when he went to the doctor and he had to explain all of these things. One of the hardest parts of ADHD is explaining how we feel. So when we get into that environment with the doctor, it's not going to make any sense to the doctor unless that doctor has ADHD too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's just in my opinion.
Or in my case, I got told, well, maybe it's menopause because, I was 48. And I said, no, honey, it's not menopause. I've been doing this since childhood. I just didn't stop long enough to realize it. And that's what COVID and the pandemic did, is you have a nice, good, big mental breakdown because everything has broken down and you have no, concept of what's normal anymore. So that was me.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sasha from Kentucky. Shannon, can we go to you next?
Where's that accent coming from?
I'm not even going to try to do the accent. I'll just embarrass myself. I don't know. I can talk about it. I think the best way that I can talk about it is to share like my experience with self-diagnosis, which I definitely did before I got like an official diagnosis. So I don't know if I've like told this story before on here, but my diagnosis story is let's say it was around Christmas 2019. I was back home in Vancouver, and I was talking to my little brother, and we were talking about loads of things, but he somehow got onto this, that he'd been diagnosed with ADHD. I was like, oh. I was like, really? Like, but you're not hyper. Like, you're not hyper. So what do you mean? And then he explained to me, like, what ADHD is. And I had never heard of it. I heard of ADHD, but I had the stereotypical image of, like, little kids running around being crazy. And that's all I thought it was. And I'd never heard of any of the other stuff. And he explained to me, he had been speaking to a friend of his who had explained ADHD to him, and he was like, that's me. And then he was explaining it to me, and I was like, that's me. Like, that's my exact thing. And then I was pretty convinced from that situation. My brother and I are very similar people. But I went away and I did a lot of reading about it. And I was like, I was pretty much 100 convinced. I was like reading books about it. I was like, yep. Like, this is me. This book describes my exact life experience to a T. But at the time, I felt like I was doing okay in life. I was planning a big new venture of quitting my job at a design agency and going freelance. And so I did that. And I did that at the end of February 2020. So then a bunch of things happened in March. I don't know if you guys remember, but I suddenly was like, oh my God, maybe I'm not doing that well. And I had read a lot of the times with ADHD, like when your structures are removed, which obviously they were, you start to struggle. And that was when I went, okay, maybe I should look into this and see if I actually have it. Because I sort of knew I had it. I started thinking about it a little bit, but there was so much going on in my life that I just sort of was like, okay, yeah, whatever. That's cool. That's good to know. Whatever. So I went to get a diagnosis from the GP. They told me there'd be an 18-month waiting list. So they said I could go private, pay for private if I could. And I feel very fortunate that I am in the place financially that I could do that. But it cost a lot of money. And it's still like the service isn't that great. Like I still haven't really figured out my meds. This is like 2 years later. So with self-diagnosis, like I think, the meds are kind of okay for me. They don't work that great for me. But all the other stuff that came along with sort of looking into ADHD and like getting support and finding this community, realizing I'm not alone in this, the self-acceptance around that, those are all things that have helped just as much, if not, well, definitely way more than the medication. So like I could have done that without the diagnosis. I definitely could have. And just having the experience of like having to pay a ton of money to get diagnosed, which I think probably like 99% of people in this world like couldn't do. It's like, it's not right.
That's the sad part of it.
It's not right. Like if 99% of people don't have access to a diagnosis, then how can we say self-diagnosis is not okay? Like when that is basically eliminating the help and the community and all the support.
Right. I mean, the
for
problem
those
is
people.
if somebody goes into the ER, the emergency room, they're having a heart attack, they don't ask like, can I see your insurance card? They take care of the problem first and then worry about all of that shit later. The problem with mental disorders is that is not the case. Nothing is an emergency to these people when it's arguably more important.
Yeah. It's really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate, to be honest, because ADHD is one of those things that is one of the easier things to treat. We know a lot about it. It's pretty cheap to treat as far as like medications go. If governments and countries and health services just got on top of making diagnosis more accessible to people and treatment more accessible to people, then we could probably eliminate a lot of issues in our society very easily overnight.
if they viewed it as a vitally important issue that they could easily manage, which they could, this would help so much. But well, thank you, Shannon.
But until then, self-diagnosis, you can get 90% of the benefit by finding the community, self-acceptance, learning strategies. You can get coaching. You can do all these different things. Just knowing you have it is the important part.
Right. And don't let anyone try to fucking tell you otherwise if you think that you do. Kirk.
Hey.
How's it going, buddy?
Good. Very good. Busy, but good.
It's a good thing. So what do you think about this whole self-diagnosis stuff? I mean, I am new to this realm.
Yeah. So for me, I got diagnosed on a recommendation of a teacher of mine when I was in 2nd grade. So I got diagnosed really, really early.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Kirk. I have to do this. A teacher recognized it and took the steps to get. Well, who the fuck is that teacher? They should be principal of every school on earth.
This guy was great, actually.
Okay.
And he actually passed away maybe about I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. So great guy. My parents were super, super thankful. He dealt with it, or he was very graceful in the way that he sort of was recommended it. Especially, that was I don't know, 1995, something like that. And there was worse stigma then. And the fact that he took that seriously, my parents took that seriously, I got super lucky. Just yeah, I mean, couldn't have been better for me. But because that was a regular part of my life, I would have other people ask me all the time, oh, do you think I have ADHD? Oh, I might have it. People would just come to me and talk about that. So I spent a lot of time listening to other people go through that process of self-diagnosis. I mean, and sure, some of it was, I was in 7th grade and my friends talking to me about it. But it also became, this year, I have coworkers that talk about it. You know, one of my coworkers is in his 40s and he's going, maybe I should go have this conversation. And I have another coworker who has ADHD who's diagnosed. And just being able to be open with those people when they're not sure, I think is a big deal for them. And I'm lucky. I know I'm the lucky one in that conversation because I got diagnosed already. Like, I get it. I know how this goes. And if there's any way for me to help someone either be more confident or understand sort of the stigma is different now, and there's a lot of options, there's communities, it's nice for me. And I think maybe when I was young, I had this idea that, like, okay, everybody doesn't have ADHD. Like, it is, you do want to take it seriously, because misdiagnosis was a problem for a while, especially when I was young. And then you had people who wanted meds for not great reasons. So it was weird sort of growing up with that view, but at the same time having people come to you having real issues who aren't being taken seriously. So, and this reminds me of sort of the last episode as well. Like, if this is a good way, I mean, this is a great spot for this community, is self-diagnosis. Because if someone's going to feel more confident to make that decision, someone's going to feel more confident to try to get a professional diagnosis, like, it's okay to start there. It's okay to start with self-diagnosis. If you think you have to have this, like, perfect professional recommendations, perfect doctor, perfect meds right off the bat, like, that is not going to happen. I mean, like, we're going to have to figure out strategies for ourselves sometimes. Like, I still am figuring out new strategies for myself every month, every year.
They change. They change weekly.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. And if I had this idea that, like, oh no, everything has to be perfect, it has to go through my psychologist or my therapist or whoever, like, I'd get nothing done. And to sort of, and it's finding that balance between, okay, I need to get this done for myself, and okay, cool, I have a therapist, I can talk about it later. Okay, I need to adjust my meds later, that's cool. But if I wasn't doing that on my own, if I wasn't willing to say, okay, I need more help in this area, I would never have constructive conversations with them anyways. So I think being able to take care of yourself is essential as someone with ADHD. And no one's ever going to have all the solutions for us, no matter how talented they are, no matter how big they're, no matter how many people they've coached, no matter how many people they've walked, through the situation with, they can give us a good framework, but we're going to have to adjust that. It's like, I'm weird. I'm really weird. Like, I do a bunch of goofy stuff. I've got goofy habits. I've got goofy quirks, and that's just who I am, and that's cool. And I'm gonna be okay with that. But I also need to fit my framework around all that, so I continue to operate as a normal human being and an adult in society. So I think, in short, self-diagnosis is essential.
Yeah, and Kirk, I mean, if you haven't noticed, you're the outcast. We're all so normal here on this. So, yeah.
Very, very normal.
Right, exactly. But yeah. To what you're saying, that's exactly why we're doing this and discussing all this stuff. Someone out there will listen and feel better about self-diagnosing themselves just by hearing what you had to say. Yep. That matters. Mm-hmm. So, thank you. Yeah. Let's go to Leo.
All right. So I think, it kind of cracks me up when people look down on self-diagnosis, because I saw something on Twitter the other day, which could be months ago. Days are hard. But, if you fall and your arm is bent at a weird angle, you say, oh shit, I broke my arm. That's a self-diagnosis. And then you take that self-diagnosis and you go get the help you need. Now, for ADHD, that's always a little weird because you can't see the broken arm. And so it makes it a little more difficult. And then you've got doctors who don't necessarily believe that broken arms exist, which adds another layer of difficulty. But, in all honesty, like every time we've got some sort of medical ailment or some sort of problem, we self-diagnose it because that's how we take what we experienced and put words around it that we can then use to go tell the experts what happened and what we experienced and do all that. And that's great. So for people to say that self-diagnosis is not valid, I challenge you to kick them in the knee and hurt them and say, oh, well, there's nothing wrong. Because you're not a doctor, right?
I think that's a great idea moving forward. I think overall.
Disclaimer, don't actually go kick anybody. I'm not going to be held responsible for the consequences of what I say.
I'll be held responsible. Kick him in the knee.
But yeah, like, and that's kind of, so my whole thing is I'm currently only self-diagnosed. There is like probably an ADHD on my chart at some point because I was able, so I kind of said at one point, hey, I think I have ADHD, but this is also when I was on anxiety medication and depression medication. And so they're like, well, we've got this like new medicine that apparently doesn't have potential for abuse and you can take it and that's great. And so that was Strattera. So I was on that for a while. But it was kind of with everything, and I didn't really understand what ADHD was at that point, and I was on actually like so much medication I wasn't really like completely myself. Like it was very much like just going through life in a daze. And so kind of with the pandemic, and as I'm all of a sudden at home and becoming like much more productive because I no longer have to worry what's going on around me at work, and I'm no longer having to just like put up with all of that, I started to realize like, okay, hey, this is actually like not quite what I thought it was. And, I start falling down the rabbit hole online and doing all the research and everything. And like, oh, well, this is me. And then eventually I ended up like going off all the medications and I'm like, I have got this under control perfectly. And then I quit my job and decided I'm going to go start my own business. And it turns out that a lot of the stuff I had like created were those, structures that provided that support. And, as we mentioned earlier, if that support goes away, all of a sudden everything crumbles and things are very, very difficult. And that's when I was like, oh shit, I think maybe I do need some medication after all. Like maybe I don't have this quite as well as I thought. But of course, at this point, I don't actually have a job and I don't have like decent insurance. And so I go to the doctor and I say, well, like, look, I'm starting to struggle here. They're like, well, to really like figure out what medication would be best, you need to go see the specialist. And they're like, go see the specialist. I'm like, okay. So I call the specialist and they're like, well, actually you're over the age of 30 and we don't diagnose people over the age of 30. I'm like,
you've got to be kidding.
Like, what is that? Like, that is such an arbitrary number.
It famously, ADHD goes away at age 30. That's why.
Is that what that is?
I would have gotten that memo.
Yeah.
Mine's sticking around.
Unbelievable. Sorry.
So, no. I mean, but that's right. Like, and so I'm first of all having to like call this place, which is already like a hard sell. I hate calling places, but like, okay, I need this. I'm gonna do it. So I call them. And then they tell me like that they don't diagnose it over 30. I'm like, well, shit, like, what do I do now? So I call my doctor's office and they're like, well, you could try this other place. And so I call them and they're like, well, we don't actually like accept your insurance, but you can give us like $500 and we'll like do the assessment. And I'm like, I don't have $500. Like, what part of I just quit my job? Do you not understand? Like, I don't have any money. So eventually I was like, you know what? I can't do it anymore. Like I'm wasting time like going through this process where they just want me to pay for stuff and I'm just going to deal with it on my own. So that's what I've done up to this point, and I've kind of made it work. I still think I would like to formally get diagnosed and potentially go on medication at some point. But that seems to be a harder sell than I may have initially thought, but at least now I have insurance that maybe people will take, but they probably have like stopped accepting patients over 35, and I just turned 36, so that's probably going to age me out of that. But yeah, so when you take all of that into account, like, yes, self-diagnosis is valid, especially if it helps you like come to terms with how your own brain works, and it helps you like figure out what to look up online. Because, you know, even just being able to go online and look up ADHD coping strategies, and you go, hey, wait, like some of this stuff might actually work, and some of it helps, and some of it doesn't, but there's still value in being able to like understand it. And you know, that's where the self-compassion comes in. That's where the experimentation and just being like aware of what's wrong or what seems to be wrong gives you the ability to like start working on it, as opposed to, why is my brain broken and I can't do anything, which is a terrible place to be. So if we can get people off of that and say, hey, maybe it's ADHD, maybe there's an explanation, maybe I can start doing something about it. Because just getting into that shifted mindset of going from like, I'm broken, to where like, no, there's a reason for this. It you know, all kind of fits together, and I can use that to build off of. That's where it all comes from. And whether or not you have a doctor who agrees with you is completely irrelevant if it changes the way you look at things and it changes your approach to actually working on solving the problems that you face. So from that standpoint, self-diagnosis is incredibly valid. And on that note, I'll pass it along.
All right, so blushing. This is going to be the one.
Oh, don't give me the, oh, wow, I'm going to be anxious now, Phil.
Oh, no. It's just your story has just been ridiculously
When
insane.
I heard about the topic of this episode, I went, whoa, I got to be there. When is this going to be? I was actually pre-warned by Lobow because I really needed to be here. The self-diagnosis is actually a topic that we talked about on the first episode I was in, the individual one, because I was at that stage at that time where I had recently, within the last couple of months at the time, gone, you know what? Yep, I'm going to go see my doctor, and I am pretty darn sure this is it. This is what I have. And basically starting with when I started to think about it, was my background is in children and youth development and psychology. So I knew about autism, ADHD, learning disabilities, all that kind of stuff. So I had some more background information, knowledge. And then I was watching someone on Twitch, where I also live stream, was talking about being a streamer and neurodivergent. And they both have ADHD. Where the two of them sat there going, this is what it's like for me. And the other one went away, yeah, me too. And I said, yeah, me too. And then I went down the list for 45 minutes of check. That's not me. But yes, for 45 minutes. And I went, yeah, you know what? I am definitely going to see my doctor about this. And I don't remember exactly when this episode that we had was, but it was very close to that time, either right before or right after.
It was a few months. I mean, it was a few months ago for sure.
Yeah, quite a while ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember when. Memory is a thing that I don't really have a lot of. But I decided, you know what, I'm definitely going to seek out my doctor. And the self-diagnosis part was reading about it, having background knowledge already, reading about it, recognizing that, oh, wow, that's me. And then going, these may be explanations instead of just happenstance. You know what? I'm going to go and get access to professional help because I'm lucky I live in Norway. There is a system that should be able to help. And I got a referral from my doctor because this doctor is really good, really takes you seriously, listens, and definitely looked at what I'd written down. We were talking about, it's so hard to explain to doctors, right? I have this book. It's my bullet journal. I have 2 whole pages in the back of this. In Norwegian, you can't understand it, but where I was going to go see my doctor, and I went, I need to write down all the problems I'm dealing with, or most of them, and then showed it to her, and she went, like, this is almost 2 whole pages of writing, and that's how I communicated to my doctor. She took a copy of it and had it with the referral. But I got into public health. Unfortunately, that clinic, long story short, after 5 months, could not conclude. They ruled out other things. They concluded again with the fact that I have depression and panic disorder, which I knew. They never went anywhere. But that's also to remind people that you can very often have many things at the same time. You can have what we call comorbidities. So
Blushing. I want to jump in on that. Actually, do you think that maybe, like, since people are unwilling, or not unwilling, but most people are unwilling, most doctors, to start with ADHD as a huge problem, they go to all these other things first, bipolar or whatnot. Is it possible that ADHD lies at the core of allowing
I'll
all
get
the
to that,
other?
Lobow.
Okay,
I'll get to that.
I just want to see your opinion
Yep.
on that.
I will, because it's part of this story. Basically, going down the road of, okay, they can't conclude. I had already got an strong inkling that would be the case, because unfortunately, women who are neurodivergent, they very seldom meet people in the public health system, unfortunately, that either understand enough or that are able to allow to, by the system they work in, to go, you know what? Yeah. And not just go inside of the old traditional patterns that they, quote unquote, must score you on, right? Because assigned female at birth people will very often present differently, not always, but often. And I do in a way, but I don't with the hyperactivity. I am hyper as F, to put it that way. But I had the plan in the background of going private, because unfortunately, I'm one of the people that can do that. I was lucky, and I found someone through recommendation. This is why we have the ADHD Twitter, ADHD Facebook groups, the whole community, because I got to know about this private practice person through someone in a Norwegian Facebook group for women with ADHD. So I emailed that person. I gave a very short background. That was right before Christmas, mid-December. And I got a referral from my doctor a week later, because this person said, yep, definitely, but I do need a referral. And then I actually waited until Wednesday of this week to email and ask about waiting times, because I know that usually it's like up to 12 weeks. Then I got an email back real fast. Long story short, this is a neuropsychologist, private practice, but with coverage from the government. So you pay copays. And I had my first appointment with this person online today, where we did the testing that is possible to do through secure video connection. And I've gotten started on the actual process. I've got papers that I'm going to be filling out this weekend and sending digitally to the person. And then we're going to have in-person meetings in February. And this is what self-diagnosis has led to. And I have a very strong feeling that this person has already got a very strong idea. And when I looked at the papers, you have you get forms to fill in. And this is 45 questions, an ADHD checklist. I looked through the first third of these questions. And on there, there's like a score 0 to 4, right? Of 15 questions, I have one that's irrelevant. I have 12 or 13 fours and a 3. Yeah, we are pretty dang sure, but I got to go through the process. But I started with self-diagnosis. And also, I will say that this process is started back in May of last year. The process with the outpatient psych clinic in public health has been a nightmare and then some. And I have been crashing hard, mentally and emotionally, just breaking down 3 times over 3 months. So I was at a point where I went, nobody's going to help me. But then I had the ADHD crew, this crew, but also the bigger environment with Twitter and Discord service I'm in, where there are people who have ADHD and other people who are neurodivergent, and they know what it can feel like to be struggling with the system, right? But I'm at a point now that self-diagnosis has led me to, hopefully, within a month and a half or less, have a result on paper.
That's going to be, I mean, the fact that self-diagnosis led you through all of this, in my opinion, that's only going to make you better off. I mean, in the long run.
But it is important to say,
that's proof that self-diagnosis is a vitally important thing.
It is important to say, though, that there are many people who have no access to doing this. Like Shannon was saying, that I'm very fortunate to be able to pay all those money. I actually wouldn't be able to pay all those money if I didn't have someone who is partly covered, where I pay a copay until I have a limit or a deductible in the US. But I will very likely end up paying only a little bit because I'm closing in on my deductible already for medical appointments. But there are many, many people who can't do this. So self-diagnosis, if that is the only thing they can do, that is not an only thing. That is crucial.
That right there, I mean, what you just said is the reason that self-diagnosis is valid. And Leo, what you were saying about the broken arm thing, I had spoken to Geraint about that same opinion, except mine at the time was, you don't know if it's a broken arm yet until somebody says, here's the x-ray that shows you that your arm is broken. The problem with that, with ADHD, is that there's not an x-ray that can clearly show you have it, or is there? I mean, I could be wrong on that, but I don't think they could do a brain scan and say you have ADHD. So in terms of the help, I think self-diagnosing is a part of helping yourself, which ADHD is. If you can help yourself, you're the only one that knows how to help yourself. So if you've got a broken arm and a doctor says it's not a broken arm, you're going to figure out a fucking way to set it and put a cast on it and make it heal. If it is bothering you that bad, you will figure out a way to do it, in my opinion. And I think that's what self-diagnosis is. And I've actually learned that opinion just now by talking to y'all, because I was 50-50 on this. I'm not lying. I was 50-50 on, yes, self-diagnosis is valid if it helps the individual, but if they need medication, you can't just go to the pharmacy and say, I'm self-diagnosed, give me this. But the way that Leo put it with, the broken arm thing, I started thinking about it. If that helps a person's emotions and their mental state of it's valid, that's like 100% of what I talk about. So really it proves the point entirely that it is 1,000% valid. And if it helps that individual person, then they should fucking do it.
Yeah, what you said there about medication.
Right.
I am a person that is very Like, I've tried so many of the techniques. I've gone to so much therapy. I've done a load of things that is recommended that you try and do to manage your ADHD.
Right.
And it hasn't been enough. So I'm one of the people that I really need to get a formal diagnosis so that I can get access to at least trying a medication to see if it can help me.
Right.
Because not everybody will have a good effect of medication. But I need to get there. Self-diagnosis is crucial and really important, and I would not be where I'm at right now, where I might have a chance to actually get the formal diagnosis.
Right.
And I wouldn't be there without that. But I need to get past that with it's black on white on paper, right? So that I can have access to trying medication. And that, in Norway, is not necessarily going to be an easy thing, because I will very likely have to pay for that psychiatrist all by myself. Yep.
Unbelievable. But self-diagnosis led you to the realization that you do need the medicine.
Yeah.
And that you will have to go through. But so that's, again, that worked for you, which is a great thing. And speaking of self-diagnosis, I think Geraint has self-diagnosed himself with a hangover. So I want to start with Geraint on the on the what are you most proud of aspect of what are you most proud of, Geraint?
What am I most like just in life?
In life, in general. We got it.
God.
Every single time we do this, we have to end with that.
I am most proud of all you lovely people sharing your amazing stories and helping people out, whilst I sort of try and remain conscious in the corner.
I love it.
No, this has been amazing, by the way. This discussion, I think, is great. Like, I think and on the I just want to say on the medication thing, which Dave, who's just come back, mentioned that, like, there is nobody that I know who, like, is self-diagnosis is valid, who also thinks you should go and buy drugs from the internet. Like, none of us are recommending. There are people who are diagnosed with ADHD who can't take some of the meds. It's, there is no medication in the world that is not potentially dangerous if given to the wrong body chemistry. So nobody's onto that. What am I most proud of? I guess I'll do, like, some people sent me some nice messages saying that I helped them recently, and came at a time when I've been feeling pretty, down, and that made me feel good, and I feel like I've done something and I've helped people, and I like that.
Awesome. Kirk, what are you most proud of?
I actually want to say one other thing too about this.
Absolutely.
The topic is, so I got diagnosed really young. I had meds all the way until from I was, 7 years old until I was 19. And then I was like, yeah, I don't want to do meds because my ego is the size of a small planet. And I just want to just accomplish everything on my own. I can do it. I don't need help. And I found a place that I succeeded without medication, without therapy, until I was 30. And then I looked around me and had really big, I got hit in the face by life with a 300-pound, 300-ton Mack truck. I just got crushed and realized oh, I'm coping what I thought I was coping really, really well, but it was affecting people around me. Because even though I had the professional diagnosis, I wasn't doing all the things I should have been doing. And when I went back, got therapy again, got meds again, everyone around me has seen a change. People who didn't like me have seen a change. People who like me seen a change. My partner has seen a change. And that's without me having that happen. I don't know if I'd be the person I am right now. I don't know if I'd be in this podcast. I don't know if I would have my partner anymore. Because I had to go, okay, we need to find corrective actions now.
But you did it.
Dire. I did.
You did it.
Yeah. And although that started a year and a half ago, I think that's, and like, I'm proud of that, sure. I think if I wouldn't have sat down and said, okay, like you think you've got all the right things in place, but you don't. I wouldn't have gone back for all the help that I needed. So it's just this weird place of, if you don't put pressure on yourself to take care of yourself, if you don't care about yourself enough to take care of yourself, it doesn't matter if medication is accessible, if doctors are accessible, if friends are accessible, if the community is accessible, if you don't self-diagnose, if you don't say, oh, I've got a problem, oh, this isn't great, oh, I could do better for myself, whatever that motivation is. If I wouldn't have checked myself, I wouldn't have got the professional help in the first place. So my stance before was like, yeah, self-diagnosis is essential. That was an understatement. You won't get anywhere else if you don't look at yourself first.
Right. I mean, that goes on the same lines as self-diagnosis is no one understands you better than you.
Yeah. And I could sit there in front of a doctor and just be like, hey, I'm here because I'm supposed to be. Now I'm not going to get anything accomplished if I'm not willing to look at myself. That being said, my moment that I'm proud of, I had the most chaotic Christmas to now. Yesterday was my first full day at home since Christmas. So like at work, and I took a vacation, and every single flight that possibly could have been canceled was canceled more than once. And like it got extended by multiple days, and I got back to work 3 days late, and all this just chaos. Lost a love bag that was worth a lot of money, and that because I just left it in the cab. I'm proud though, because one, I came out of that grateful, like really grateful for everything that I got to experience. No matter how many things could have gone wrong, it didn't matter, because my mindset has changed over the last year and a half. I'm thankful for the little things, thankful for the weird stuff. And on the first day of the trip, I got in at 3 a.m. Woke up at like 8, went to an aquarium, walked like 2 miles to an ice rink, and got down on one knee and proposed to my partner of 5 years. And she said yes. And I'm proud that I've become the person I am now, so she would say yes.
Oh
That's
my
what I'm
God.
proud of.
Okay, that's huge. I should have closed with you. Thanks for the
That's
text. That's awesome, man.
And no matter like how tired I am right now, like no matter how weird work is, no matter how like okay, cool, I just need a day to sleep, and I'm not going to get that day to sleep for a really long time, and like it doesn't matter. Like I'm happy, I'm thankful, I'm grateful, and there's a lot more good things in front of me, and I'm excited to see what happens next.
Hell yeah. Congrats, Kirk. That is so awesome. That is, wow. That is fucking awesome. I did. Thanks for the heads up on that one, buddy.
I probably should have warned you.
Love
But it's
it.
funnier that you didn't.
I know. Totally agree.
True.
Totally agree.
True.
Shannon.
God, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, you do. What are you most proud of?
On a small, tiny wins level, I'm very proud. I filed my taxes, so
Oh, hell yes.
Excited about that.
That's
Excited
huge.
about that.
That
took me. It took me a while. But then on an ADHD related thing, I don't know, like what you were saying, Kirk, really like made me think. Like actually, I am proud of this. Is I said earlier that like meds don't really work for me, but I've been sort of going through a thing where I can't really like change my meds, even though I want to and kind of need to. And for a few months, I stopped taking them because I was just like, I don't have any support. Like, I don't want to be taking these meds without the support of a doctor. I don't want to be taking meds that don't work for me. And I just get forced to take them because of bureaucracy, basically. And sort of like after Christmas, like the beginning of New Year, I was feeling like really down about like life in general and feeling really like unsupported by doctors, but also by sort of like, you know, people around me. And I sort of like spiraled a bit down. And so I guess what I'm proud of is, so I've started back on the medication, but slowly, and I'm proud that I'm like choosing to like continue pushing to get the right medication. Because I think even like Dave said, like, you know, you get a response, you get like my doctor's like, well, you can't change it, too bad. You get that and you're like, God, like, I guess I give up. But self-diagnosis, like admitting to yourself that you can't do things like without help, without the support, without the medication, or I think that it does take a lot of introspection, and it takes a lot of like pushing through self-doubt. So yeah, I guess I'm proud. I'm like continuing to like fight for, you know, what I need, I guess, and admit that I need it.
Well, that's huge. That's like one of the most vitally important things in all of life. So yes, that is a massive, proud situation. Thank you, Shannon. Leo, what you got, buddy?
Oh, wow. Well, you know, it's a bit tough to follow Kirk, and you know, I don't envy Shannon for having that spot right there. But no, I'm proud for a couple things, for sure. So this week got the first like YouTube video out that is actually edited thanks to Lobow, and I've gotten some like really awesome feedback on that, which is super cool because like most of the stuff that I'd put out previously were like videos that I just posted on YouTube and they didn't tell anybody about, and so they just sat there unwatched, because that's a lot safer than actually having people watch them. But actually putting in the effort to like, you know, reach out and get that help editing and get it posted was huge. And then recorded first episode of like the version of the podcast as a co-host with Justin, who unfortunately wasn't able to make it today. But that was a really fun conversation. And again, thanks to Lobow for getting the editing done and the publishing, because that's the part that always ends up holding me up. So making sure that, you know, putting that into his hands and making sure it gets published and all of that was huge. But I think one of the most remarkable things I saw, and I don't want to say I'm proud of this, but I think we should be proud of this, is when I helped Lobow set up the fundraising link. So we're trying to help raise money for the crisis text line. And within like a couple days, we were just shy of like $1,000. And that was absolutely astounding. Like the amount of generosity already shown there was phenomenal. Like I put a target. I was like, oh, we should be able to raise like $5,000 in probably like 6 months, right? Like that seems like a perfectly reasonable thing. And then like less than a week in, and we were already shy of 1,000. So we're still working on some things there, and getting that link into the podcast notes and all of that.
Yeah, basically they say that it's $19 per, like every time someone reaches out texting wise, they're anonymous, number one, which I think is the best part of that. A lot of people don't want to call and have their caller IDs registered. You could use WhatsApp and text this number, and it supports one person getting back to that person in need. So like, I guess our goal for this is to raise $19 per episode. And that's, if something for someone is the theme, thank you, Kirk. And if it's something for someone, I think that is a good way to do it. A good goal to have, at least. Are we going to meet that goal? I have no idea, but we're going to sure shit try. But Leo, sorry to interrupt you, man. I just want to clarify that. That's perfect.
But yeah, that to me really like showed me like, okay, we are actually making a difference, right? Like that level of support, and all of that from the community around us. Like we're making an impact, and I think that that impact shouldn't be understated. So that's what I'm most proud of, because I see where this is going. I see the progress we've made in a short amount of time, and the sky's the limit. So let's fucking do it. Let's get there. And
Yes.
I'll pass it off on that.
Awesome. Blushing.
On a personal note, I am the most proud of having stood through hell and back. And I can't say back now because I feel like I'm on the way somewhere good. And advocated for myself even when it was the most hopeless situation, where I really just wanted to lay down and sleep and not care. But that's not an option in my life. I have a rule. I don't get to give up.
I love that rule.
I don't get to shut myself in and not talk to people. That is the thing that all of you, if you ever don't hear from me on Twitter, you don't see, maybe you see me on Twitch, but that's it. And then nowhere else, and very quiet on Discord stuff and such, you poke at me because something's wrong. Because then I'm breaking my own rule.
That's good to know.
Yeah. But I'm proud of that I stood through and advocated for myself, and that when I went, whoa, it's going to be like a 3-month wait for this private practice person, or up to 3 months. I went, you know what? They have to answer me or respond to me by 2 weeks. So you know what? I'll count from the day after the holidays, because they get to take holidays in Norway. So I emailed on Wednesday of this week, and lo and behold, see, I've already had my first appointment. And that's because I said, you know what? I'm actually going to keep on advocating for myself and write that email. I even booked it into this book and into my alarm. Email specialist. It was in my alarm and in here. And I did it.
I love how each episode you've been on, Blushing, your confidence level goes up. Has anyone else noticed that? Like the first time Blushing came on, she's like, and I stuck up for myself. And then the next episode, it's like, yeah, I fucking stood up for myself. I'm like, whoa, here we go. All right. That's what I'm talking about.
in one of the episodes, I was really low. And everybody could tell. And then the next one, I had started fighting for myself again. And that's what you're talking about, I think.
Yes, that would be. Yeah. But congratulations, Blushing. I know it's been a hard one, to say the least. So you're kind of an inspiration here. And by kind of, I mean you're a fucking inspiration to all of us. So
okay, now I'm living up to my name. Now I'm blushing. Thank you. That's a compliment. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna own it. I'm gonna say thank you.
Love it. Nice. Okay, Sasha, what are you most proud of?
I always hate that question because now I feel like a deer in the headlights, and I don't know how to answer.
It's a hard question.
Okay, well, first, I'm proud I showed up today, because I've told you I would like 4 or 5 times now, and I always chicken out, or I think about it all day long or all week long, to the point where then I just got to go take a nap because I've exhausted myself. So I'm proud I showed up.
Absolutely. That's huge. You're right.
The other thing is of myself is I'm always jump like I like crocheting, and I like it for 2 months, and I crochet the shit out of that stuff, and then I don't pick it up again. So I'm going to say, because I've gone back to college and I've stuck with it now, and it's almost been a year, and I've actually transferred to university so I can diagnose all the undiagnosed people. I'm going for social work and stuff. So, but I'm proud that I've stuck with it. I didn't just do it for a few months and go, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to drop this like I did the crocheting. So
that's awesome. That is awesome. I thought ADHD people couldn't stick with things longer than a few months. Fucking wrong.
I take Strattera, and that does help me, the Strattera.
Right.
Also, I'm off the anxiety and depression meds, because turns out I probably wasn't those things. I was just ADHD. So there you go. And I actually have feelings now because I'm off of those meds, which is really, that's hard to be off meds that have made you numb for so long, and then you cry over something. You're like, I haven't cried in 15 years. What the hell's this? So I'm proud I can cry again, I guess.
Sasha, you're great. Thank you so much.
You.
And thanks
Thank
for coming on. I hope you come to some more of these.
Yes, I will.
Awesome.
Lobow, you asked me a question. I didn't actually answer it because, hello, ADHD.
I knew that triggered you too. Back to the question of is ADHD lie at the core of?
Yes, because
right.
Sasha, you reminded me. Thank you.
Right. Go ahead.
Because the specialist I talked to today, we talked about that thing where I have ME, or chronic fatigue syndrome. That's a big part of that is fatigue. Of course, other things too, but that is a big thing. And this person mentioned, oh yeah, but a lot of undiagnosed people with ADHD, they deal with fatigue and a lot of other things. Sometimes they're not actually depressed. Sometimes they don't have anxiety, or they could have it, but they have it low grade. So they don't really struggle so much with that. They actually have an ADHD.
Right. And Dave and I actually talked about that when we spoke a long time ago about ADHD could very well, and this is, I'm not a doctor. I have no clout in this opinion at all. But my opinion is the more ADHD you treat and accept and treat like it's a serious thing, the better mental health is overall. I really do feel that ADHD could be at the core of allowing all of these other things to come in.
There have been studies done on this, that the longer ADHD goes untreated in someone's life, the more likely they are to have comorbidities. So it's a theory, but it's a fact.
Yeah, I like that. Dave, what are you most proud of?
Lots of things. First of all, Blush. I'm proud of Blush, and I'm a bit sad that I didn't get to hear her full update, but I will listen back to the episode. What am I most proud of? Two things spring to mind. Number one, consistency. It's that thing that we all struggle with, and in fact, for those of you who were on the last time that I was on, you'll know that I was like super stressy about all the work I was putting in on social media and not getting the returns and all the rest of it. And so thanks to Lobow shouting me out last week, I've now got 1,000 followers on TikTok. So it wasn't down to any of my work. It was down to his, saying, check this guy out. So, but the thing was, I managed to reframe the whole thing and stop focusing on the outcomes and start focusing on the inputs, because the inputs the part that I can control. And basically, I decided I was very frustrated. I went away on holiday in November and early December. And then I came back, and for 2 weeks, I just didn't post anything. I was just, I can't be bothered. I can't be asked. It's not getting me anywhere. It's not doing anything. What is the point of anything? And I decided, basically, instead of trying to post something to TikTok and say something over there, and to post something to Instagram and say something different over there, and to all the rest of that, and to create specific videos for YouTube, what I decided, and I created this little button on my Stream Deck, which I tried to put up to the camera, and I've just basically broken. But basically what it does is it records to my hard drive what I'm saying on stream. And it switches off the music that's playing on the stream, so I don't have to worry about trying to edit that out later. And it also switches off all of the notifications that come in, because my audience love to basically play fart noises in the middle of me saying something important. And despite the fact that I give very long answers, I've now managed to almost perfect the idea of getting something down to less than a minute. So if I know that I'm going to say something that I can then reuse later, I press a button. And then when I press that button again at the end of it, it reverses all of that stuff. So it stops recording, switches all the notifications back on, puts the music back on, etc. And then I end up with a nice little folder at the end of my stream of here's highlights from the week. And then I managed to actually start batching those, so editing them all in
Is that where those TikTok videos, that new thing is coming from? Because I love that shit. That is so awesome.
That's genius.
So
Yeah.
so basically that, and here's where it gets slightly more genius. I feel like I'm showing off a bit too much now, right?
No,
I post that you'll see this because you follow me on a bunch of different places, but I post the exact same clip to all four, meaning TikTok, YouTube, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and a streamer one called Hover, which I've only just started working on now. And it's basically once that, and then get this, because my hard drive failed over Christmas, and when I actually had to try and repair it and such, it's like, wow, you really don't look after your files. There's just literally folders that I can't find anything in. And now, once I've posted it to all of those places, I move that file into a done folder. So when it comes time to do all of that, for the next video, I'm not looking at a folder with 500 videos in it. I'm looking at a folder with just 6 videos for the rest of the week in there. And I have posted a video every single day since sometime mid-December now. And I've got the next 5 of them already done, and I'm going to do some editing on Sunday, and then that's next week's done. So again, I've now focused on the consistency of my work, and I'm like, look, some of them completely flop, and I'm always excited. I'm like, I can't wait for people to see this one, and then it goes nowhere. But ultimately, it's something I used to tell my clients is focus on the work, not on the result. If one of my clients was trying to get like a certain squat, I'd say, right, focus on the sessions that it takes to get that squat. On the day, we never know. You might be feeling tired that day. You might not have slept that day. You might get it. You might go over it, right? But instead of focusing on, getting so intent on the outcome, get intent on what you put in. Like, I'm focused on that. So I've managed to do that. I've streamlined loads of things, made everything so much easier for myself. I've also had my phone on Do Not Disturb for over a month now, and that's just amazing. And then the second thing, that was only one of the 2 things, is this literally came through this morning. And this, I want to kind of read this to you all as a thing to say, just notice the time frame in this, right? Because we might think that what we do doesn't make a difference because you did something today and no one told you today that what you did today made a difference to me today. And then by the time someone does tell you it makes a difference, you've already forgotten what you did. And this person came into stream only this morning and said, hello, Mindset by Dave. Probably a year ago, I came into this stream being really low in life, contemplating suicide because of depression and social anxiety disorder. Everyone in this chat was really nice, and I was really on the edge of life and death. I'm still not in the right place, but I'm getting there. So this person, like, again, and also Blush, who's one of my mods and one of my community, I'm very, very proud of being the head of a community that I can trust and that will look after people in chat, even when I'm feeling like I haven't got the spoons that day or whatever it might be. And yeah, I'm very proud of what we're building over there. And I still think we're only just getting started.
That comment is unreal.
I have to add that I am proud of Dave because heck, you've done so much over the last year. And you're going places. Maybe not so much in numbers, though actually, yes, you are. But you're doing so much to make a difference. We are doing so much to make a difference, both with this podcast, with different streams that people are in, other podcasts we're making, tweets, so many things. I'm proud of everybody.
Thanks, Blushing.
Thank you. Or as me and Blushing have now started saying, no us.
No you.
No us.
It's the usual thing, but we replace it with no us.
I like that.
Wait till you see the animation I made today.
Oh, God.
Oh, it's really cool. It's really cool.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So, all right. What am I most proud of? First and foremost, by far, is Leo, the crisis text line thing. That never in a billion years would I have thought that amount of money would come in that like in 3 days or whatever the hell it was. I mean, I think it was 23 hours.
It was even a really short amount of time.
It was. It was ridiculous, and I'm humbled by that. The second is I am very proud to say that I learned an amazing lesson in self-restraint over the past 2 weeks, which I am not the best at self-restraint. I am, especially when it comes to the treatment of other people that I see if in my opinion, I feel like that is hurting that person, I go for the jugular. I cannot stand it. But the most recent TikTok situation, I had my first viral TikTok video. Yay. There were a lot of comments and a lot of like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And of course, the first comment I got that was like, what the fuck are you talking about? I was like, oh, I'm immediately stitching that, whatever. And I stopped. And I was like, if I start this, I am going to do this with every single comment that I don't agree with that comes in. I cannot allow myself to do this. So I didn't, and I haven't. And I am so proud of that, because that is something that I would never have done in the past. So self-restraint, that was it was a good lesson. And I was able to learn exactly.
Make sure you're not carrying that axe.
Oh God. Yeah. With this podcast, I swear to you, I do not look at stats of this. You can't, if you get bogged down in the numbers, then you start doing it based on the numbers. And I like the way that we do it now. I like the way that this is going right now. We're helping people, more and more coming in. For right now, this is, I think, exactly where we need to be.
I think that's totally right, though, because like you said, like the thing you put like the least effort into is always the thing that ends up going viral.
I know.
And so we know we don't have any control over
exactly
what people want to click like on and not. So that just points back to put effort into what you can control, which is, we can meet up and do this. We can just do what we can, do what we want to do consistently as we can. And if it happens to go viral, lovely. And if we reach one person, also lovely.
A reminder to everyone, you are worthy, you matter.
I think everyone here is amazing.
Love y'all to death. I will see you soon.
What is your profession?